Okay, so after we talk about the model and how to calculate the steady states or the equilibrium in that model, the next nature question to ask would be, so what happened to an increase in Z? Okay, because we talk about the increase in this technology or total factor productivity a lot in the previous model that we talked about in chapter 4 and 5, remember? So there, when the economic, when the Z increase, the economic will grow, right? It will become a better situation for everyone because you may even work less and your production is higher. Everybody consume higher consumption. But what happened here? So if Z increases, it obviously shift up the per worker production function. Okay, the ZF of L, it must shift up. But in the long run, the population increase because don't remember, if the total growth, there is a growth in production, there is a growth in consumption. And if there is a growth in consumption, population will grow. And if the population will grow, it will then reduce the per worker production. Right? So in the long run, it actually goes back to the steady state. Go back to the initial level of consumption. Remember, we're talking about per capita consumption or per worker consumption. So there's no long-run change in living standards. The lowercase c doesn't change. That's the key. So in terms of model, that's what it looks like. So the g function doesn't change, right? It stays the same. And that's actually the key. That's actually the key, because if the g function don't change, in the steady states, this must still be 1, right? So it corresponds to the same steady state consumption per worker level. That's why in the long run, the change in production, the change in technology doesn't change. And the C here, the same C level correspond. This is the original production levels, total factor productivity level, Z1s corresponding to the production money corresponding to that Z1. So actually this is a typo. It should be 1 and 2 here. Okay. So obviously you can see when the technology goes up, what happened? It goes the equilibrium lowercase l, the land per worker, goes from L1 star to L2 star. So it decreases. Okay. But I mean, the economy is better. It should be better, right? Because the technology is better. This is basically saying that someone in the past invent some new way for agricultural production, like a better aggregation system, okay, or a better way to cultivate, better tool, even. So it increased. Given the land per worker, that's how many workers are in a particular land, right? That's the human capital. Human here. That many human produce right now more good. So the Z, that's the effect of Z. right? But somehow, in the steady state, everybody still eat the same amount. What happened? It must be that we have more population, right? So this is what happened. So this is the time t here means this is the time where z goes up. So z equals z1 here and z equals z2 after the time capital T, after time t. So it is not the case that c doesn't change at all. The c will have a jump because I mean at this period when the land per worker is still L1 star, the consumption per worker actually will go up, right? This consumption per worker will go up to this C star 1. C star plum, sorry. Maybe another notation would be better. Let's say C1. C1 is a level that's higher than C star, right? So suppose C1 is here. What it suggests is that n plus n will be greater than 1. That means the population will grow. It will increase. So initially it goes to C1. But after the population increase, what happened? Because this is per worker consumption. If the population increase, there's more people to share the same amount of total production. Right? So it must go, and we know eventually it will go back to the C star level. So it will go converge to that level. As for n, it must be the case that after that period, the population starts to grow, and it converges to a new level, N2 star. Okay? So what it says here, basically what I'm saying is that this model predicts that no matter what kind of technology improvement in this world, everybody's living standard will be the same. Okay? Obviously, that's not the case for our modern economy. But think about before 1800, before the Industrial Revolution. It is not the case that before 1800, around the world, like our ancestors, the Chinese in the mainland China and or the people in the Europe, they don't have any new invention on production. They actually do have a lot of invention, right? But those invention doesn't convert to a better standard of living. That's this model's prediction, and it predicts pretty well for most of the humanity's history, right? And what is useful in this model to actually increase the per worker consumption? Actually, it is population control. Okay, so if you control the population, I mean, we're not talking about how right now. We're just talking about if we can control the population. It alters the relationship between the population growth and the per capita consumption, basically. It changed the function G. If you can do that, you can actually increase the consumption level per worker. So what it does is like this. It decreases the function g from g1 to g2. So I'm still, in the steady state, I'm still talking about, well, I'm still looking for the steady state where there's no change in population. But if you decrease g, it will increase the consumption from C1 star to C2 star. Remember, there's no technology change here. So what it really does is it will increase the land per worker. Okay, I actually say something wrong before. I just realized. It's not how many people on one land. It's how many land per worker can use. Okay, so it's land divided by the number of workers. So right now, why there's better consumption? Basically, each person are get more land for his own production. Okay? So this model actually is very simple, but it tells you basically two moral. One is that technology growth is not that useful in this model. The second is that what is actually useful, you must do something about the population. And this model, like I said, provides a very good explanation for pre-1800 growth fact in the world. Basically, there's no growth. And so the story goes like this. Any new invention come out, it will be something really good for a while. But then, because this new technology arises, it creates the ability for people to raise more population, to raise more kids. And then it decreases the per capita consumption. Okay. But Malthus did not predict the fact that technology Sorry, I'm not sure I'm using, oh. Okay, yeah, I got it. This is something wrong about my slide. I should be talking about this slide instead. Okay, so Malthus did not allow for the fact that the effect of increase in the capital stock on production. Okay, so basically there's no capital stock here. Yeah, sorry, that one is the old slide. I should delete that. I forgot to delete that one. So why capital stock is useful? Not like the only capital here is the land in this model, right? Land is something basically fixed. Okay, you cannot change how many land a country can have, basically. Or you can it's not easy to change how many land you have. Or per capita, how many person get how many land. But there's no limit to the size of the capital stock. Capital stock can be as many as possible. Also, having more capital implies that you're more productive and you can even produce more capital. So capital can generate capital. Okay. And also, Malthus did not account for all of the facts that economic growth can do on population growth. Okay, so, I mean, if you do watch the news, like one of you just said in previous class, I mean, what we have right now, the problem is that not that our economics so good, and therefore we have a very high birth rate, right? We actually have most of the country, especially those modern economy, what we have is a very low birth rate. So why is that? I mean, there could be a lot of reasons. One reason is that the opportunity cost of raising a kid become larger and larger. I mean, as someone who is currently raising a kid, I can tell you, raising a kid is something much more like a full-time job. So back then, I mean, I'm not sure about your parents, but back when I was in elementary school, not most, but a lot of my classmates' parents, one of the parents, mostly the mother, usually work as work at home, take care of the kids, usually more than one kid. But as the economy grows, the opportunity cost for the mother not to work outside become larger and larger. Right. So a lot of the women right now choose not to become a housewife and come out and work. And that will delay the birth or even decrease the birth rate. That's one reason. Okay, so there are a lot of reasons, but basically the relationship is not as simple as what Malthus predict. That if per person consumption is higher, we will give birth to more children, basically. Okay? So that's the Martian model. Okay, now let's have a 10-minute discussion, I would say.